At your last board meeting, the board was presented by staff with a proposal for essentially the penalty for working without a permit required by the zoning code. Now let's distinguish that from the building code. I spoke with Mr. Steve Patterson. He says, who is your building official, Mr. Patterson, and it tells me that he is satisfied with the current penalties that are on the books for building code violations. I have taken the liberty at my own, without direction from the board, to take what you adopted at the, or you approved it at the last meeting as a penalty provision for working without the permit required by the zoning code, and I have drafted an ordinance that takes that, those proposed penalties, and it changes them by increasing the potential penalties that could be enforced if someone were to basically violate the zoning code by beginning work without getting the permit required by the zoning code. I've attached to this at page 9 the proposed penalty that was presented to you by staff. I've already scheduled the public hearing on the proposed ordinance, and that public hearing will take place on March 19th on 2024. However, I did want to discuss with the board in advance of that meeting the enhancements that I had proposed in addition to what staff had proposed. For example, if you'll look on page 11 of my report, if the board were to authorize me to move forward with this draft of the ordinance, this is the penalties for commencement of work prior to obtaining the permit required by the Franklin County Zoning Code. The first offense would be issuance of a stop work order plus a double permit fee, which would have been due for the work, and a $50 fine per day commencing with the date that the stop work order is issued and ending on and including the date that the after the fact permit is issued. Upon payment of all fees and fines, the after the fact permit would be issued and the stop work order deemed lifted upon issuance of the after the fact permit. What had been originally presented was essentially just the first offense would be a double permit fee. The second offense is very similar to that I'm proposing that the board consider is very similar to the first offense. The issuance of a stop work order, triple permit fee, and a $100 fine per day commencing with the date the stop work order is issued, just as with the first offense. Then the third offense, again, stop work order, triple permit fee, $500 fine per day in the issuance of the stop work order. And then upon all the payments of the fees and fines, then the after the fact permit would be issued and a stop work order deemed lifted. Fourth offense would be the stop work order plus prosecution, as it says pursuant to Florida statute section 125-69. I've attached a copy of the statute, but essentially that's a second degree misdemeanor. It's up to 60 days in jail and 6 months probation. And then I've also added in a proposed penalty for people who violate the stop work order, and the penalty for the violation of stop work order would be defined, or would be prosecution as a misdemeanor as provided in Florida statute section 125-69. Again, that's essentially a second degree misdemeanor. The statute that I provided you a copy of speaks for itself. I provided the definition of the violation of stop work order. I do think that in addition to posting the stop work order, that we should also mail a copy of the notice of stop work order to the property owner and the contractor, and that the effective date of the stop work order shall be the date it's posted on the property. I figure people may want to argue about that, about when does the stop work order go into effect. So I just wanted to make this presentation to the board because it is a substantially different penalty than you had discussed at your last board meeting, and wanted your authorization to proceed forward with this proposed draft, or if you want me to, I can just scale it back to what was originally presented to you by staff. But I know that we've had a lot of issues with with staff, and I know the board members have publicly stated that there's a lot of problems with people working without permits in violation of the zoning code. There's been discussions about we need a more effective penalty. So that's the reason that I have redrafted this for your consideration. So with that, I'll shut up and listen.
I do want to ask you a question about it, Attorney Short. I understand, and I think I do, why you added what you added, and I'm good with it. but I do want a little bit of clarification to make sure we're understanding the same things.
Yes, sir.
So even on the second time, it's $50 a day until issuance of a new permit or until they apply for a new permit? Because people don't get a permit the same day they apply for it. So if it takes our office another week to actually get their permit after they've got issued a stop work order, is it gonna be until they're issued a new permit, until they've applied for one?
For each offense, it's until issued. So I was not anticipating that type of a time delay, so I can modify that.
Yeah, well, that's, I think, I'm fine with that language, but I think that needs to be a discussion we definitely have with our planning and zoning department and making sure what their understanding is, because I know, just in dealing with business in general, if there's anybody I'm dealing with that tends to give me a problem or an issue, usually they go to the back of the line by course, and, you know, then I just wanna make sure we're not doing something that's punitive in it not being issued properly because there is a problem. You know what I mean? So then we're compounding it by our policy. I just wanna make sure that we're, in other words, we wanna correct what needs to be corrected, but it needs to be able to be addressed fairly. So if it's gonna be, I think unless we know for sure, so I did something, and I got a stop work order, and I come and apply for the permit properly, I'm gonna get that permit today or tomorrow, not next week, or I'm sorry, somebody's out sick, so you gotta wait 5 days, you know, and then they're getting charged a day
Yeah.
waiting on us. That, I don't think would be a good look.
An
I
excellent
agree.
point, and
Yes.
that's why we have the collective wisdom of the board.
Yeah.
I can easily modify that language to say that the daily penalties stop upon the submission of a completed
what I was asking,
application
yeah.
with all the information
Right.
required by the zoning code.
Right.
That's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
Okay, if they stop the work.
Thank you. That was gonna be my comment. As
That's
long
it.
as they stop the
Yeah,
work.
oh yeah, all this is based on stopping.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because some people
But then
just,
that, you know me, I love to play the devil's advocate,
Yeah.
but I mean, sometimes the fine's cheaper than the end product. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
And that's gotta be in there as well,
Well,
as long as it has, the work is stopped.
Well, that's an issue that, although we like to treat everybody the same, everybody's not the same. To some people, this triple permit fee, they're gonna say, oh, I can pay that and I get to do what I want to.
Yeah,
There you go.
Write a check, yeah.
I mean, I'll start the check, and ain't no big deal.
yeah.
I'm doing what I wanna do, and ain't nobody holding me up.
So that's what I'm saying, if you go with the language and then say, hey,
Yeah.
once you get that work order or their stop work order in, then no $50 a day, but if they're continuing to do work, then,
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean, that's why we
No,
got.
it's gonna be a stoppage.
And I can clarify this to
Yes.
accommodate both Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Amoson's
Yes.
commentary. The stop work order stays in place until after the fact permit is issued,
Issued.
but the fines stop upon
Yeah.
the submission of a completed application that provides all of the information required by the zoning code.
Or you could, to actually take it a little bit further and still be good, you could make it where it doesn't, the stop work order doesn't get rescinded until you actually receive the permit, and you paid the fines.
Absolutely, yeah, that's in here, absolutely. That is, that's in here, but y'all provided some great commentary on some things I need to modify. And I have time to make the modifications, the draft ordinance, I mean, today's the 5th, the public hearing's on the 19th. This, draft just has to be on file with the clerk's office 10 days before the public hearing, so I have time, that's why I wanted to bring it before the board today.
Okay.